you are having a wonderful, fabulous day. I have just joined a group called Travel Talk Tuesday. It's a tribe of travel vloggers, and every week we have a topic and we post a short video of ourselves answering the question of the topic of the week. So I'm actually going to do the 3 topics that have already passed because this week is the 4th week of the group, but I really liked the previous questions and I really wanted to address them. So make sure that you check out in the description box below everybody that's part of the Travel Talk Tuesday group. There's about 10 of us, and it was started by Elias Limitless and Lauren Without Fear. So thanks guys so much for accepting me into the group. I'm not 100% travel blogger, but I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of it from now on since I have lots of footage from my trip to Beijing, China. So everybody really covered their thoroughly, I think, the topics that were already introduced in the first weeks. They talked a lot about resources that they use when they're traveling, a lot more now. They're traveling more than I am. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about past experiences. So the first week, the topic was community. I want to talk a bit about how I ended up on YouTube sort of in the first place, and it starts back 10 years ago. 10 years, this March 17th that's coming, will be the 10th anniversary of the first dinner group I hosted. We were going to cheap ethnic restaurants twice a month. So Cheap Ethnic Eats for a dinner group totally worked. So it's already 10 years. I can't believe it. I'm doing a little reunion dinner with some close friends from that. So that really started a community, and the group lasted 3.5 years. And from that, 10 years down the line, about between 20 and 30 of us are still friends. So that's an amazing community that started out of that. A little bit after I started the group, I started a food blog called Cheap Ethnic Eats at the time. And we did not really reviews of restaurants, but kind of like just we went here and we were this many people and it was fun and blah, blah, blah. It didn't take too long before I turned that website into recipes. I do mostly cooking. So in June, it's going to be 10 years I have my food blog. I've changed the name since then. Now it's culturEatz. I mostly do recipes, and I really focus on doing recipes from around the world. So I've been doing that for so long, I've developed quite a community of food bloggers out there as well. And because my recipes aren't, they're not really the kind of recipes that people look for a quick dinner at home when they get back from work. I'm more really specialized in foods from around the world and unusual dishes. My audience is not really Canadian, it's from around the world, and I talk to people from all over the world, and it's really interesting. I've had some really interesting exchanges. So I built a big community around food blogging, and I recently got into YouTube. I'm doing both travel. I'm just starting to travel since I only had footage from my last trip to China, but I'm definitely going to focus on that a lot in the future as well. And also I'm doing some food videos as well. Second topic was languages. What languages do you speak, and which language do you want to learn next? I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, so we are the French province of Canada. My mother is French-Canadian, une Québécoise, so actually technically French is my mother tongue. My father is from Austria, from Vienna, so his mother tongue is German. He immigrated here in '67. He had very little family, so he concentrated on English, and my parents speak in English. When I started talking, I also started talking right away in English with my father. So I'm bilingual. I always say I was born bilingual. French and English are the 2 languages I'm completely fluent in. In high school, I went to a private school, so we had 3 classes. We had 3 major languages. So I did Spanish for 4 years. It's been a really long time. With the French, because it's a Latin root, it comes back really easy. I don't have a huge vocabulary, but throw me in a Latin country and I understand. If they don't speak too fast, I understand about 70% of what people are talking about if I listen on a conversation, and I can get back into it pretty fast. My verb conjugation is non-existent, but people completely understand. So the first sentence I usually say is, estudio el español para 4 años a la escuela, pero hay mucho tiempo. And they totally understand, and apparently I have a good accent. Besides that, I've learned here and there little words from different countries that I visited that I've forgotten as well. The last trip I went to was in China, in Beijing, so I tried to learn some Mandarin really hard because it's completely different language, like completely different language. But my tip is when you're going to go on vacation, there's 4 words you should definitely know in any language, and those are hello, excuse me, thank you, and please. If you just make at least the minimum effort of learning those 4 words of every country you're going to in that language, it's really going to open up doors. But you know, if you can try and learn a little bit more, that'd be really great. Especially in China, I highly recommend that you learn how to haggle a little bit and saying, you know, how much does it cost? It's too much. Give me your minimum price. And yes and no, and that will help a lot in bargaining prices down. I don't really know which language I would like to learn next because I don't know where my next vacation is next. So I think that would be the answer to that question would be wherever I go next will be the next language I want to learn. I would like to make my Spanish better. I'd like to be more fluent in Spanish, so that would help. Finally, the third topic that was covered last week was travel fears. Again, go check out all the other Travel Talk Tuesday people that contributed to that because they're, you know, most people are in their early 20s and they really cover extensively the good basic fears that you should have when you start traveling that way. I'm going to give you a personal example. Transitioning again from Spanish, I was in Cusco in Peru, and I had been there like a week, and I figured I was completely immune to any food issues because I was fine for a week. So my last day in Cusco, I was traveling up a mountain, and there was this beautiful fruit. It was like fuzzy like a peach. It was a yellow skin with just like these purple lines, and I just couldn't help myself. I ate it with the peel, and that was a bad idea because I got food poisoning like you would not believe. I ran to the bathroom all night, and the next day I was supposed to catch my flight back to Lima around 3 o'clock, I think. So I convinced them to let me stay longer than I could do a late checkout without fee because I didn't even know if I was going to make it on the flight. But finally I kind of got just enough better to make my way to the airport. Because I was sick, I didn't know when the news that there had been some really bad snow in the Andes and the mountains, and they're not used to that there. So when I got to the airport, the queue for the ticket was like to check in was just insane, and it wasn't moving, and you could tell something was going on. In front of me was an American guy who spoke Spanish really well, and that's where we found out that there had big weather issues and they didn't know if the flights were going to leave. So I'm already standing in this line. I don't know if I'm going to pass out or anything else that could possibly come out of my body was going to come out. I got very anxious and scared, more because of my health at that point. So I heard the guy in front of me tell the people a little bit further ahead that were Peruvian, oh, she's panicking, she's afraid, she's crying because she doesn't know what's going on and she's afraid of being stuck. I completely understood that. I got really angry, and in the best of my broken Spanish, I started kind of almost yelling back, I'm not scared of traveling. What are you talking about? I'm sick. I've been ill all night. I don't know if I'm going to pass out. It was not a pretty scene. That's one of those times that being alone can not be so much fun. After waiting in queue for an hour and a half, they said there were a few tickets left, so they checked us in. We got our check-in, and they said, run to the gate. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Anyways, I made it to the gate, and it was kind of suspicious because there was just a lot of Peruvian people around only, very few tourists, and I just got a feeling. And a few minutes later on the intercom, they announced that the flight was canceled. I saw that American guy talk to an employee of the airline, and she kind of told him, come quick, grab your bag. And they went through, you know those metal revolving doors that you can go out of, but you can't come back out in? You can't get back in? I was sitting on the side with my backpack, just not feeling well and going, I don't know what I'm going to do. And at that point, the Peruvians went crazy. They started banging on the counter going, oh, you're letting the foreigners, the tourists, the Americans are getting through. You're getting, you're screwing us. You're leaving us behind. And I just sat there going, okay, what do I do now? And I was kind of scared. It was like a very unusual situation. I didn't want to miss my international flight. So I don't recommend that you ever do what I did, but I grabbed my backpack and I ran through those revolving doors you cannot get out of. So technically I breached national security, which was the second time in my life I did that. And the airline attendant saw me and freaked out, and the American guy said, no, it's okay, she's with me, I know her. So it turns out that there was one flight left going to Lima because a big group of travelers missed the flight the night before because of the snowstorm, and they were just filling like the 4 to 6 seats they had left with foreigners. I got on that flight, oh my god, like I at least was feeling better enough to fly at that point. But that was a scary experience, being really sick, not knowing if your flight's going to happen, deciding should I put fate in my fate of my getting back home in like the airline and wait it out, or make a crazy decision and do something that's the equivalent of breaking national security, which I did and got to Lima, middle of the night. They say that taking even a taxi can be really dangerous in Lima, like late at night. I met these 2 guys from Mexico that were on the plane with me, and we decided to share a taxi ride, and they dropped me off first at my hotel, and everything turned out just fine in the end. That, I think, was one of the scariest experiences I've had traveling. So that's me catching up, sorry, it's a longer video, on those 3 topics that I missed the first 3 times around. Make sure again to check out all the other people that are part of Travel Talk Tuesday. And I'm going to post another video today. I will be back soon with today's topic so I can catch up and be at the same level as everybody else. So have a wonderful day, au revoir, and talk to you soon.